Hi, my name is Prerna, and this is my birth story. I'm 37 years old, and I just gave birth to my first child, a little baby boy, 10 weeks ago. And I was very lucky to have the help and guidance of the amazing birth doula, Samsarah Morgan. And I just wanted to share with you, how everything went. So, labor started for me, I guess early labor started for me in the late afternoon of April 8th. And it was around 3 or 4 p.m. We were actually just finishing the very last decorations for the nursery. My sister was helping me hang up some photos, on the wall. And I started to feel these basically it felt like menstrual cramps, like kind of painful, menstrual cramps. It didn't really register to me as labor because it didn't feel anything like I'd been having Braxton Hicks contractions for the past several months, and it didn't feel anything like a contraction. It just really felt like a kind of intense cramp that you feel, during your period. But it was around 3 or 4 p.m. We were down in the nursery trying to hang up photographs on the wall, and I didn't feel like I could stand. Like the pain just kind of was making it a little bit difficult for me to stand and continue to do things. So I sat down on a chair in the nursery and just to kind of breathe through the cramps. And was just sort of directing my sister, make turn the picture like this, turn the picture like that. But it didn't. I still didn't realize I was in labor. I just thought, oh, this is kind of just one of the things that's going on. I'm cramping a little bit, whatever. Um, so I just sat there, I think probably for about an hour, breathing through the cramps, talking to my sister. And then, my sister left to go home. And but the cramps kind of kept intensifying. And I think it was probably around 6 o'clock that I kind of registered to me that the cramps, there's this cyclical nature to the cramps, and they are getting more intense, and the pain is getting more intense. So around that time, I texted Samsara, our birth doula, and just kind of told her what's going on. And she suggested, why don't you go take a shower, take a warm shower, see if that sort of calms things down. So I went to take a shower. It felt nice, it was soothing. But as I got out of the shower and kind of went back, went to the kitchen to try and eat some dinner, the cramps hadn't gone away. They actually had gotten even more intense, and they seemed to be happening more frequently. So I think it was sort of starting to dawn on me that something's going on now. um, and so just I texted Samsara again, and she said, okay, that's good news. Keep monitoring it. Let's see what happens. Um, and I started to feel at that time this sort of desire to go to the bathroom. And over the past 2 or 3 days prior to that, I hadn't really been able to. I hadn't had a bowel movement in a couple of days, and so it just felt like more of the same. And so it didn't. I didn't know if this was related to labor or not, but I just felt like I really want to go to the bathroom. And so I tried a couple of times, and I think it was around 7 p.m. or 7:15 p.m. That one of the times I was kind of sitting on the toilet seat and trying to go, and it's just there was suddenly like this intensity to that experience of trying to go that just felt different than anything I had ever felt before. There was this rush that came, and I was like sort of on the toilet seat and just like, I was like, whoa, okay, that is not normal. Something is definitely going on here. And I think that was the moment that I knew that I'm in labor. I hadn't really still felt anything that I would describe as pain. It wasn't painful. I mean, obviously, menstrual cramps are painful, but not like in a. It was very normal, the feeling of a menstrual cramp. Nothing that I felt like I couldn't deal with or that was overly negative or anything. It was just something was happening, and it was an intense feeling and a feeling of growing intensity, and a feeling of a rush, and the kind of the cyclical nature to the whole thing. And that was really where it all began. I knew in that moment, that I was in labor. I let Samsarah know, and so we were in close communication. And my husband, I kind of sent him away a few minutes earlier to go get some laxatives. He came back, and we realized I'm in labor and decided not to take the laxatives. And then everything just progressed from there. It all happened really, really quickly. I think from you could say labor started for me around 7:30. Like that's where I really felt like I was in real labor, and it all sort of unfolded very quickly over 5 hours, basically from that time on. Um, my husband and I we put on some music, sort of just sat in the living room and just tried to breathe through it. He was there with me. Just really we tried to get into a very kind of spiritual mindset. One of the things that from all the birth stories that I watched and the videos that Samsara had shown me, one of the things that we really took away from that is that birth is a spiritual experience, and the best way to do it is to try and get into that mindset, to really go there and let yourself feel um, that ancient power, and let yourself kind of give yourself to it as opposed to fighting it. And so that's what we did. We sort of sat cross-legged in the living room, put on some music, and just kind of tried to let ourselves get into that frame of mind. My sister rushed back across the bridge. She lives in the East Bay, and I live near San Francisco. So she had just gotten home, and right, was on the text realizing that I was in labor. So she came back, and brought a bunch of food, and we just sort of were there together, letting it happen. The rushes were growing in intensity and in frequency. We started timing the contractions. What I realized then were contractions, and it just kind of kept getting closer and closer together. One interesting thing was I think timing the contractions actually made them more painful for me. Well, I don't wouldn't describe it as pain, but just kind of made them more intense. And eventually, once we realized, okay, they're coming about every 2 to 3 minutes, like this is happening. My husband was just like, let's just stop timing them. Don't look at the phone anymore. Just uh, we don't need to know. So that helped a lot. I think just again, not you know not trying overly to be in a um, worldly frame of mind. I think there's something about the clock that really makes you uh, too aware of your surroundings. And once I let that go, I think it really helped me completely click into that, get into that space, that spiritual space that I wanted to be in. Um, and Samsara, and Mika, our doulas, ended up coming there, I think, around 10:30 or so, and it was really, really comforting for them to be there. I was afraid. I think before then, because the labor was happening so fast, I felt this really intense desire to push, and I was like, "What if the baby just comes out? We don't know what to do." So there was this really, really great sense of relief when Samsara and Mika showed up, just to have our doulas there with us. And Samsara's presence, her wisdom, I really felt, her the wisdom of the ages of women, going back generations, and it was just this amazing feeling, and I really felt like everything was going to be okay. We ended up leaving for the hospital half an hour later, around 11. Got there, I think, around 11:20 or 11:30, and everything just progressed really quickly from there. And we had our birth plan ready to go. We really wanted to try and have as natural of a birth as possible, and we were very fortunate that everyone, the hospital staff was very accommodating to our desires, and it was just all very smooth. It went from, I think I was 7 centimeters dilated when I got to the hospital, and uh, 2 hours later, our son had arrived, and we succeeded in having an unmedicated birth, and everything was just very very smooth, as smooth as I could have ever imagined it to be. It was amazingly intense and it was difficult. The pushing was pretty fast. I think it was something like 15-20 minutes of pushing, at half an hour at most, but I don't even think it was that long. And having the doulas there, and to guide me on how to push, Samsara really helped me through the pushing. It made all the difference, and it was, I think, a very beautiful birth and very spiritual, and I really felt my own power as a woman, and as a mother. And when my son, our baby came out, and he was so alert. It was amazing. I mean, his eyes were open wide, and they put him on my chest, and he was just looking up at me, and it was just the most divine experience of my life. And I'm just so thankful for everyone who was there, a part of it. Samsara and Mika, our doulas, my sister, and of course my husband, who was an amazing, amazing partner through it all. So that's my birth story, and I think, anything that for you to take away from it is just that it, there's no reason to have any fear. When I first got pregnant, and started reading about labor from the hospital pamphlet, I was really scared. I had a lot of fear around it. And the thing that I do when I'm scared is try to gather information and educate myself. And as I was doing that, I read a statistic that, labors go much more smoothly and there are much fewer complications when there's a doula present. And so that was really why I sought out a doula, and was very fortunate to find Samsara, who's an amazing, amazing doula. I just could not have imagined having, you know, anyone better. So she's really incredible, and she brought us so much information and just really opened our eyes, my husband and my eyes, to how labor can be, that it doesn't have to be a fearful experience, and that it can be very spiritual and powerful. And the biggest thing is just, this is what we're wired to do. We are designed to give birth, and it can absolutely be a beautiful experience. So yeah, that's my birth story, and I wish all of you the best in your beautiful birth experiences. Thanks.